What's up guys, welcome to Veldora-kun. From our previous episode, we have witnessed a battle between Xian and the three unexpected guests. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, I will put the link in the description below. Just a quick warning, these videos contain spoilers from the light novel. By the way, please follow my backup channel with all the lost videos. Also, don't forget to join our Discord community, Veldora-kun Subordinates. The link is in the description box. So now in this video we will review what happened next, which is the arrival of new tribe which are the Elvens. But before we will proceed, please like, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Now without further ado, let's proceed with the video. After that, the reception continued smoothly. Rumors of Xian taking control of Dagrul's sons spread like wildfire, and seeing how the powerful races of Gozu and Mezu were in fear, there were no other races that dared to look down on Rimuru. Rimuru hoped that this would maintain up until the end of ceremony. Soon after, an elder from the Elven race and a few of his men arrived. Basically, the elves were a species with a long lifespan. Both they and dwarves were originally spirits brought to physical life. They were the ancestors of elves and dwarves. A race such as the goblins were also distant relatives of ancient fairies. Fairies bearing the earth element eventually became dwarves. Those with the water element became merfolk, fire became goblins, and wind became elves. These were all results of crossbreeding between ancient fairies and other races that made up their ancestors. Apparently, goblins had little in the way of fairy blood left, which made their lives comparatively short. It was about the same for their evolved race of ogre. Their lifespan was around 100 years. Upon evolving to Kijin, that re-energized the power from your spiritual ancestors, giving you skills that bordered on the divine. For elves, accordingly, they could live up to 500 to 800 years. Basically, the lifespan of each elf varied greatly in accordance to how much fairy blood flowed through their veins. This was all the information Rimuru learned from the ladies at the Night Butterfly, the night shop at Dwarven Kingdom. By the way, fairies still existed as their own species. They were not even rare, but in fact a very common type of monster. These were smaller spirits given monster form by the effects of magicules around them, and they were about the same size as Ramras and enjoyed pranks. They evolved from lesser spirits due to the influence of magicules. They had intelligence, but they couldn't procreate and didn't live long. Ramras tended to be mixed up with these fairies, but she was actually something different. She fell from the higher-ranked species of Spirit Queen, which was likely far more advanced than the ancestors of elves and dwarves. It sounded like she went through an eternal pattern of reincarnation. Now, hearing the elders' greetings, we are honored to have you receive us. We have come here today to celebrate you and offer our heartfelt gratitude. Rimuru wasn't sure why the elder had to thank him since it's their first time meeting. And the elder explained that it was related to the Gozu and Mezu tribes. The two races had been fighting each other for over 100 years, and it turned out the biggest victims of their 100-year war were the elves. The elder added, "That's why we were hoping to report the matter to you, so you may come up with a way to deal with those thugs. But before we could, my lord, the events have just now transpired. Now all we need is somewhere to move to." Upon hearing his words, an idea popped up in Rimuru's head. A new place to move to? That's right. They have that right here in their town. Indeed, it was the mini forest they just finished building on level 95 of their underground labyrinth. We just had to make them move there. He could even put them to work in helping Apito run their honey operations, cultivating rare plants that only grew in magicule-rich forests, maybe running the inn he planned to open on floor 95. He could also invite them to manage the weapon shops. Perhaps those girls making money abroad will return too. By that time, will the elf club for special members only no longer just be a dream? Yes. This was excellent. There were bars in their town too, except that they served as restaurants as well. Doing it this way was most suitable for the adventurers. If you wanted someplace for a quiet drink and relaxation, you'd have to go to their administration-exclusive dining halls. Rimuru said, "Chief, I've got a suitable place for you to move to." And the chief responds, "Ah. You do, Lord Rimuru?" And Rimuru replied, "Since there are just 300 of you, we'd be able to fit you all in." And the elder is delighted, "Thank you." Then please wait for me to return and bring all the tribesmen together to meet you." And Rimuru said, "Great. I'll get it all set up so it's available for move-in when you're ready. But I have some work that I want you to handle, is that alright?" To which the chief assures, "There's certainly no problem. If us elves can contribute for Rimuru, your majesty, nothing could make us happier." Rimuru bid the elven elder farewell, who thanked him. Rimuru is reminded of what they talked about. The elder mentioned that elves had been leaving their enclave to work and not coming back. Some elves even reportedly went out hunting and never returned, which disturbed him. But then Rimuru remembered what he heard in Meyermile's shop. That the proposal from Viscount Kazakh of Ingratia, a place that dealt in elven slaves, wasn't it? Maybe his hunch about the criminal group Kazakh was fronting turned out to be true. Then through thought communication, Rimuru commanded Sawe, who was awaiting orders behind him. He said, "Sawe, go investigate Viscount Kazakh of Bruman Kingdom." And Sawe replied, "Understood." Sawe immediately dispatched his clones to handle the investigation. Rimuru also shall probably want to ask Meyermiles what he knows about criminal slave merchants, too. If it turns out Kazakh's involved, there'd be no mercy for him. It was a challenge to Rimuru's love for elves after all. His personal ambition was to open the elf club of his dreams and be the owner of the place. "I just have to defeat whoever dared to get in the way of my business." He wasn't about to let anyone keep him from that dream. The long audience period was finally in its last day. If Rimuru made it through today, the nation founding festival would then be hosted in 3 days. Geld, who had been on vacation since a few days ago, had returned to the nation. Diablo and Hakyuru had also returned yesterday. Diablo said, "Ah, Sir Rimuru. You are as stately and dignified as always. It's been so long since I got to meet you, the joy in my heart is overflowing." Diablo started to say this nonsense, followed by a series of kufufufufu laughter. Rimuru thinks that there was nothing dignified about a slime, so he reasoned that Diablo probably needed glasses or something. Rimuru is eager to hear Diablo's report, however, they would have to discuss that later. Diablo looked disappointed, but today they had an important meeting. Rimuru couldn't get careless, as the guests they were having a meeting with today were VIPs, drawing much attention from him. A heated aura like burning fire gradually approached outside the entrance. As the door opened, a group of armed militias entered. They were the race that Benimaru visited in person as an envoy. These were the Tengu tribe, an independent force residing in the Kasha Mountains on the horizon of the forest of Jura outside Rimuru's jurisdiction. Their leader was a beautiful young girl. Rimuru thought that they were called Tengu because they had long noses. The Tengu race was the heavenly dog. Tengu were apparently a mixed race between angels and wolfmen. Wisdom King Raphael said, "Notice. The correct term is not mixed race. They are angels incarnated into the bodies of wolfmen. Basically, these were mountain wolves who were born as deities that were crazy strong. Due to the incarnation of angels using their flesh, they were able to give birth to the Tengu race that retained their personal will. The single individual that led to this species was the Tengu elder, the mother of the girl before Rimuru. This elder's power had declined greatly due to the birth of said child. It was for this reason that this young girl had become the chief of the Tengu tribe. Which brings back to Benimaru's experience when he paid a visit to the Tengu tribe. They were kind enough to have allowed the high orcs to move over to their region, but in reality, this race was extremely prideful. If we were to demand of them to fall under my control, they would definitely dislike us. It may inevitably lead to war. Of course, I never planned on doing that in the first place. This race revered as mountain gods, so there was no reason to deliberately fight them." Benimaru understood that, so he was on strict instructions to just get their permission to build a highway on their lands between Tempest and Kingdom to Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian. Benimaru said, "I've successfully established contact with them. The Tengu tribe cannot ignore Rimuru-sama, so they mentioned plans to come see you sometime." Yet he looked very exhausted. Rimuru asked, "Was there any problem?" And Benimaru denies, "No, not exactly, but..." Benimaru bit his tongue and didn't give a direct response. And Alvis, whom Rimuru sent along with him, her mood was very bad ever since she got back. Rimuru couldn't do anything about them, but he decided to force Benimaru to answer his question. Since Benimaru didn't want to respond, Rimuru went for a drink with Benimaru in private. And soon, he managed to get things out of him. And that's it for my video. Thank you so much. See you on my next upload.